Title: She was unfaithful, so I exposed everything to her family. CR erupted, but that was merely the beginning. I sent copies to everyone in her extended family, at least those whose addresses I could find, her roommates, the summer camp where she worked, some professors she had casually mentioned in past conversations, and even the principal of the school where she got a job. I'm leading a goal of 100,000 subscribers by the end of the year, and I truly believe we can achieve it together. So if you could hit that subscribe button, it would really mean a lot to me. Now, let's dive into the story. Rule number 1, don't betray me. So here's how it all started. I've been following the posts here for a few weeks, and now it's my turn to share. I didn't want to wait for the 7-day rule, yada yada. In 2008, I met an incredible girl at college, let's call her CR. I was 21 and she was almost 19. We both felt like we were experiencing true love for the first time. We were attending the same community college, I was majoring in theater design, and she was studying education. Although we lived about 30 minutes apart, that was nothing more than a small inconvenience because we spent all our free time between classes together. Looking back, that slight distance might have even been beneficial. It allowed us to focus on our homework and personal care when we weren't together, making the time we did spend with each other that much more meaningful. CR finished her associate degree in 2009 and transferred to a state school to complete her degree in early childhood special education. The distance wasn't much of an issue since the train ride was short. I visited her 1 or 2 weekends a month. On Valentine's Day in 2010, I proposed to her. Meanwhile, I decided that academia wasn't for me and enlisted in the United States Air Force in May. I was assigned to a base halfway across the country in a place neither of us had ever considered visiting. Still, we were determined not to let the distance come between us. However, her mom never seemed to like me. I'm still unsure why, but she was the loudest, most obnoxious, and disrespectful person I'd ever met. She was from the city and had married into a family of farmers who had owned their land since the 1870s, which might have explained some of her animosity. This will be important later. Back to the military, I had a 2-week break between training and my first deployment, which happened to coincide with Christmas and New Year. Although we were engaged, we hadn't made any concrete plans to get married. She wanted a small family gathering, which I was fine with, but I also suggested that we could just go to a courthouse to make it official. My reasoning was that I would be moving soon, and being married would grant me a full housing allowance, which we could save for a proper wedding in a year or 2. The idea was to marry quietly without telling anyone, as they would likely be upset about not being involved, and then hold a fake wedding ceremony later that included both families. It turns out that I wasn't allowed to collect the housing allowance while living in the barracks, and 6 months later, when they realized I was actually married, they kicked me out, forcing me to find a house on base. Regardless, we didn't get married while I was on leave. I took a train out west, which I highly recommend for anyone with the time. The first time we saw each other after that was during her spring break in early March. CR and I secretly got married at a courthouse and spent the next few days inseparable, just like any newlywed couple should. I returned home for a couple of weeks in June, and that's when things began to fall apart. CR volunteered as a counselor at a summer camp for kids with special needs. The last time I saw her that summer was shortly after her June birthday when I dropped her off at the camp. Communication was sporadic for the rest of the summer since she was on duty 24 hours a day, 5 days a week. I completely understood her dedication to those kids. When she returned to school that fall, she grew more distant. She often made excuses about her phone dying at suspiciously predictable times. She flew out to spend Christmas with me in our new, mostly empty house, but afterward, she went back to her reclusive behavior. By May 2012, I took a month-long leave to attend her graduation and help her move in with me, but I barely recognized her. All of CR's interactions with me felt strained and insincere, and I should have realized what was really going on. She had set up what she called mock interviews with grad schools near her hometown, and I naively believed she was doing it just for the experience. What a fool I was. When I began to understand how serious she was about getting a job back home, she broke down, making it seem like I was forcing her to choose between me and her career. Naturally, I wanted to prioritize our marriage, so I returned to my base without her. A few weeks later, I pressured her into explaining what was happening. It turned out she had fallen in love with a fellow camp counselor and had been having an affair for about 9 months, claiming she was planning to tell me but didn't know how. She seemed to think I would just walk away from our marriage, but I wasn't ready to give up that easily. I fought to keep us together for 2 months before filing for divorce. I'll skip the sappy details, but the divorce was filed in late August and finalized by December, following the mandatory 90-day waiting period in my state. The anguish I endured in that one-sided relationship is something I wouldn't wish on anyone, except perhaps those who truly deserve it. Apparently, her mother had been whispering all kinds of lies to her, suggesting that I joined the military to get away from her and blaming me for all the tears and misery her daughter was experiencing. My soon-to-be ex-wife never admitted anything, and she blamed me for everything. I had always been close to her dad and siblings, so I didn't think they would ever suspect me, but her mother was so manipulative that by Halloween, they had all turned against me. At that point, I had reached my limit. I was nearly suicidal with daily anxiety attacks. I was exhausted, tired of being lied to, tired of the slander, and tired of being painted as the villain when I was the one who had been wronged. It started with text messages to her siblings saying, "Hey, I'm actually your brother-in-law, nice to know we don't keep secrets, right?" CR exploded, but that was just the beginning. I wrote a 3,000-word letter detailing every aspect of what had happened, including copies of our marriage license and certificate, the name and contact information of the guy she had been seeing behind my back, and all the secrets she had forced me to keep. I sent copies to every member of her extended family whose address I could find, her roommates, the summer camp where she had worked, and several professors she had mentioned in past conversations, as well as the principal of the school where she had gotten a job. Describing the fallout as catastrophic would be an understatement. Her ultra-devout Catholic family practically disowned her. Her reputation at her former school was destroyed, and the tension at her new job grew so intense that she was forced to resign before Christmas break. Revealing those secrets was the most liberating experience of my life. To sum it up, my ex-wife and I got married in secret, never truly lived together, and she cheated on me for nearly a year. I got her disowned by her family and forced out of her first teaching job by telling everyone she was close to every dirty little secret I could remember. Now, my thoughts: once you found out she was cheating, you began by informing her family. You said it started with sending text messages to her siblings saying, "Hey, I'm actually your brother-in-law. Nice to know we don't keep secrets, right?" And then it escalated from there. He wrote a 3,000-word letter detailing every possible thing he could remember, including copies of the marriage license, plans for the future, and everything she did behind his back. He sent this letter to everyone in her extended family, her roommates, the summer camp, and even her professors. This led to her family being furious and ultimately forced her out of her job. Reading through the comments, someone mentioned that cheating is one of the most despicable things one can do, and many praised him for his well-executed revenge. Others wondered how personal issues like this led to her losing her job. Despite the simplicity of his actions, they proved effective. It's a stark reminder that some people are just not on the same page as you, and sometimes it's better to focus on becoming the best version of yourself rather than putting energy into a relationship that isn't right. It looks like everything turned out well for him in the end, and he's now answering questions in the comments section. If you want to check it out, feel free to follow the link to the original post. Let me know what you think about this story in the comments below, and I'll see you next time.